General Sauer, before we get into the broader national issues, would you start with Dred Scott? Dred Scott was a case about state citizenship. It was a diversity case. And of course, we know what Chief Justice Taney did with that. How does the Citizenship Clause respond specifically to Dred Scott and answers or changes or corrects its answer as to citizenship?
Dred Scott is the 1857 Supreme Court case that stated that blacks did not have any rights a white man had to honor. Therefore, they could be denied citizenship. Now, when the 14th Amendment was proposed by Congress in 1866 and ratified in 1868, it was a direct response to that awful decision.
Thank you, Justice Thomas. I'll maybe start by addressing Dred Scott. As you alluded to the fact, Dred Scott, imposed one of the worst injustices in the history of this court, and it led to the outbreak of the Civil War. It's very clear, and this court in all of its early cases interpreting the 14th Amendment said the one pervading purpose, the main object of the Citizenship Clause is to overrule Dred Scott and establish the citizenship of the freed slaves.
So how do we get from ensuring that former slaves were not citizens to anyone born on our territory is automatically a citizen?
Well, starting with that theory, you obviously put a lot of weight on subject to the jurisdiction thereof. But the examples you give to support that strike me as very quirky. Children of ambassadors, children of enemies during a hostile invasion, children on warships. And then you expand it to the whole class of illegal aliens are here in the country.
Do the words subject to the jurisdiction thereof mean anything? That is the gist of the case. Let's start by looking at the words of Senator Jacob Merritt Howard, the man who proposed the language, and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. From the Congressional Globe record of the debate, we read, "This amendment, which I have offered, is simply declaratory of what I regard as the law of the land already, that every person born within the limits of the United States and subject to their jurisdiction is by virtue of natural law and national law a citizen of the United States. This will not, of course, include persons born in the United States who are foreigners, aliens who belong to the families of ambassadors or foreign ministers accredited to the government of the United States, but will include every other class of persons." Senator Howard clearly expressed his intent in offering the language and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Does that represent congressional intent? Again, from the Congressional Globe. Now, all this amendment provides is that all persons born in the United States and not subject to some foreign power, for that no doubt is the meaning of the committee who have brought the matter before, shall be considered as citizens of the United States. If Senator Howard is correct, that committee who brought the matter up agrees with this understanding. I think that makes a much better argument than relying on the Civil Rights Act of 1866. Justice Sotomayor makes a rather strawman argument.
What do you do during the debates of the 1866 Civil Rights Act and of the 14th Amendment with the entire discussion of the people who opposed the amendment, who kept saying we can't pass it because we're making citizens of gypsies who have no allegiance to anybody, and we're going to make citizens of Chinese people who can't be citizens because we're not going to permit them to be citizens? What do we do with those debates and the fact that the proponents of both acts said everyone who's born in the U.S. will be citizens?
First of all, the people who opposed both the 1866 Civil Rights Act and the 14th Amendment lost. Their arguments did not win the day. And this argument that both sides said everyone who's born in the United States will be citizen is not supported by fact and is refuted by the floor debate of the senator who offered the language and subject to the jurisdiction thereof. This is a complete red herring, and she wasn't done.
I agree with you what the European nation's rule is, but England was always different, wasn't it?
Not until 1983 it changed.
That's not quite true. The Wong Kim Ark does a wonderful job of laying out the English rule. And you claim it was different, but there isn't any treatises or scholars who say it's different. English rule was always by birth. Other countries were not by birth.
Which is the problem with the Wong Kim Ark decision. The court places a foreign rule above the supreme law of the land. Justice Jackson displayed a similarly flawed view of the 14th Amendment.
And I was thinking, I, a U.S. citizen, am visiting Japan. And what it means is that, if I steal someone's wallet in Japan, the Japanese authorities can arrest me and prosecute me. It's allegiance, meaning can they control you as a matter of law. I can also rely on them if my wallet is stolen to, under Japanese law, go and prosecute the person who has stolen it. So there's this relationship based on, even though I'm a temporary traveler, I'm just on vacation in Japan, I'm still locally owing allegiance in that sense. Is that the right way to think about it? And if so, doesn't that explain why both temporary residents and undocumented people would have that kind of quote-unquote allegiance just by virtue of being in the United States?
That's absolutely right, Justice Jackson, and that comports with the plain text of the 14th Amendment as it applies to everyone born in the United States other than those subject to the exceptions that were baked in, a close set. You owe natural allegiance as a U.S.-born citizen.
Except the 14th Amendment doesn't say, and subject to the jurisdiction of its laws, but subject to the jurisdiction thereof. Meaning it's not a question of whether or not someone is subject to our laws, but whether they are subject to the jurisdiction of the United States. You see, Justice Jackson, should she visit Japan and commit theft, she would be subject to their laws. At the same time, if, while in Japan, she divulged classified information to the Japanese government, she could be tried in an American court for an American crime, regardless of what nation she is in at the time the crime is committed.